You can see how that, if you got a 270 mile, 200 mile wind headed toward you, towards your house.
Yeah.
I mean, it could blow your house open. That's what happens.
Yes.
It just blows it
And a
open.
lot of times it will, just because
Implode.
pressure,
Yeah.
it'll cause the house to
Yeah.
explode.
As always, our friends at 8 Days of Hope are on the way.
Yep.
To do work to help the people who have been.
Their rapid response team does just such great work.
They do.
They will get there quickly, get tarps on roofs that have, are missing parts of it, so then they can come back and put the actual roof on.
At our story meeting this morning, we have a prayer time, and there was a prayer request from one of our guys that they have a couple here in our home base of Tupelo. They just got back with 8 Days of Hope from California, kind of doing some of the cleanup work that 8 Days of Hope does.
From the fires?
From the fires. They just got back, and then they got a call last night, we need you up in St. Louis, because they have the big feeding trailers.
Yeah.
So they're on their way now up to St. Louis to help out there. So
they do great work.
Thank God for the volunteers with 8 Days of Hope, because we know what the weather's been like over the last couple of years. It's like endless. There's teams going all the time.
Right.
So we're thankful for 8 Days of Hope and for the folks that volunteer to go out there. And they're there for weeks sometimes, some of these teams.
Right.
Next story, Fred.
Well, as we sit here, folks, our president, Donald Trump, is on the phone with Vladimir Putin. Remember last week when President Trump was in the Middle East? We thought there was talk about him going to Turkey to meet with Zelensky, the Ukrainian leader Zelensky, and Russian leader Putin. That didn't happen. But right now, we are told, just before I come in the studio, that President Trump is on the line with Vladimir Putin. Later today, he's going to be talking with Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, trying to bring about the first aim, the first ingredient in this is trying to bring out a 30-day ceasefire in this horrible, horrible war that we have seen there. This, to my mind, is the first conversation that Trump and Putin have had on this issue. And you know what Trump has had to say about Putin. Does he really want peace? What does he need to bring about a ceasefire? What is he demanding? Apparently, those are the questions that are going to Putin right now. I suppose later today we will get a readout from the White House on the responses. And then, as I say, the Zelensky call also happening. So the president, you remember during the campaign, he said, if I'm elected office, we'll bring an end to this war. It has got to be a frustration for President Trump because we're now, 3-4 months into his presidency, and this thing is still going on. There was more bombings on the weekend from Russia. So
from my understanding, part of the hang-up here, and I've talked about this on the air a number of times.
Right.
I did not think it was a wise foreign policy approach for the West, being led by Republican presidents as well as Democratic Party presidents, to continue to poke the bear, so to speak, after the collapse of the Soviet Union and continue bringing nations right up to the border of Russia into NATO. After all those decades of NATO, the United States leading NATO as a counterweight to the Soviet Union, leading the Warsaw Pact, that enemy mentality. And I think that part of the hang-up here is that Vladimir Putin wants to make sure that Ukraine is never allowed into NATO. And if they have to devastate Ukraine or capture it entirely to provide a buffer between the West and the Russian border, I think they'll do that. So I'm not sure. Maybe this is part of the frustration on the part of President Trump is NATO and the Biden administration, they were perfectly willing to antagonize Russia. I'm not saying Russia is off the hook for attacking a sovereign nation, Ukraine, okay? But we've talked about if something similar happened to the United States, we would be taken care of looking out for number one.
Mm-hmm.
And my guess is that Putin is saying there have to be guarantees that Ukraine remains neutral if we stop and have a ceasefire or a truce.
Steve Witkoff is U.S. Special Envoy in this. He was interviewed in advance of this phone call this morning. He believes President Trump's call with Vladimir Putin will probably be successful. Cut number 6.
I believe that the president is going to have a successful call with Vladimir Putin. They know each other. The president is determined to get something done here, and hopefully, if he can't do it, then nobody can.
Who's that?
That is Steve Witkoff, the U.S. Special Envoy. You've seen him, his pictures a lot on
Let me ask
TV.
you this question. You mentioned readout. You used that word. Or you did or somebody did. Maybe it was one of the reporters. When a president has a conversation with another foreign leader, in this case Putin, are those phone calls accessible to the news media, or does the White House make a printout, or is that what a readout is of the whole conversation?
No, the media does not hear this phone call.
Okay.
But I would think that our the White House spokesperson, Kathleen Leavitt, will have a news conference, her regular readout. They call them readouts.
What is a readout?
A readout is basically here's well, to be honest, here's what we want the public to know about this phone call.
They'll summarize.
That and spinning for your
right.
To give your point of view, put it
yes.
front and center.
Now there have been instances in which conversations, especially during Trump's the first week of his first term,
right,
there were leaks of the call he had with Australia and one other country. So that can happen, but ordinarily it's no, you don't get. Nobody has access.
Well, no, I don't think you'd want that. Nobody.
Right.
I mean, you got to
speak frankly.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, it'll be interesting to see, and we are all hopeful that a peace deal can be brokered here between Ukraine and Russia, because man, it's just been a bloody, painful war that's destroyed a lot of the Ukraine. Honestly, I don't know how long. I don't know how much of Russia has been damaged. I'm talking about the land,
right,
and cities and such. But I don't know. It's just like, to me, there's dead bodies all over the place. It's like a nightmare for those people.
It's going to cost a lot of money to start repairing that country. There are refugees in Poland. And elsewhere.
Remember all that? Remember all the people who left? Hundreds of thousands, not a million.
And do they come home? Do they go home?
Are
their homes remaining?
Right, right. So, also one aspect of this, sort of the world thought that Russia would capture the Ukraine in a matter of weeks. Yeah. You remember that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And here we are 3 years later, and the Ukrainian war, I mean, the Ukrainian resistance, as it were, is still, going toe-to-toe with the mighty Russian army. I guess they're not so mighty anymore.
Yeah, and the problem for the Ukrainians is that they are not as numerous as Russia.
And Russia's getting the North Koreans to come help them too.
Yeah,
they're recruiting mercenaries, so to speak.
Well, Kim Jong-un, I guess, wanted his troops to get some battle experience.
Yeah.
So
so President Trump. The big news right now is President Trump is at this very moment on the phone with Vladimir Putin and trying to persuade him to end the war with the Ukraine.
I think what they're trying to do, the White House, give us 3 things that you want, Putin, to bring us to a ceasefire.
Right.
It's a step-by-step thing.
Right.
What do you need to get us to a ceasefire for 30 days? Then you'll talk to Zelensky and see if they can bring those 3 priorities together.
Well, and that's part of the problem too. Is that Zelensky? I'm sure Russia's going to say we're not going to give up the territory we have, and Zelensky has been saying, no, they got to go. They got to leave. And if that's the case, the war continues.
Yep.
So I tell you what, Zelensky, what's his first name?
Is it Vladimir?
Vladimir.
Same as Putin?
No, wait.
No.
What? I'm sorry. I can't.
Zelensky. What's his first name? Do the Siri thing. That's all you got to do. Steve Jordan does the Siri thing.
Volodymyr.
Volodymyr.
Yeah.
Volodymyr, yeah.
Volodymyr.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's not Vladimir.
Volodymyr.
It's Volodymyr with a.
Zelensky.
Yeah.
All right. So I know that, there's. Well, I'm just going to say this. The politics of it aside, I guess you could say, I have admiration for him. Zelensky, I'm talking about, for this reason. The guy was had no experience in this kind of in leading a country war effort.
Right.
None. He was like Trump. He was a TV star.
Yeah.
Turned president, right?
Yep.
Comedian, I
Yeah,
think.
former entertainer.
Yeah, and then he became president of Ukraine, and then Russia invaded, and started, and he has held up for. How long has this been going on now?
3 years.
He actually played on a TV show,
Mm-hmm.
a TV series, Servant of the People. I'm reading Wikipedia, in which Zelensky played a fictional Ukrainian president.
Wow.
I didn't realize.
How ironic.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
I know a lot of people have problems. They, with Ukraine's corrupt and all this, and there's a lot of truth to that. I know that. But I'm just talking about just as a person who rose up to the moment to confront the military and rallied his country to keep Russia from rolling in 3 weeks and taking over.
Mm-hmm.
And they organized a resistance movement that has been phenomenal. We're talking about Russia had one of the greatest, mightiest armies in the world, and they don't even have to ship them tanks across the ocean.
Right.
It's like being Alabama to Mississippi. You
Right.
just roll in and take over, and the people of Ukraine said, "No, we're going to fight. We're going to fight for our country," and they've been and so that's what I and you talking about something where you don't take a break. 3 years of 24/7.
Yeah.
Living this and begging the world for money all the time.
Money and weapons.
Money and weapons.
Yeah.
You're having to basically travel around with your hand out, your hat out, which has to be a little bit humiliating. A little bit humiliating.
But it's desperation.
It's desperation for his country. So, what do you think I should do? You think Ukraine should just fold and give themselves to Russia?
Here's my perspective on it. It's not about what you should do. It's about what can you do.
Pragmatism over principle.
Yeah, I mean, Russia's not giving up the eastern portion of Ukraine that borders on that
they have control of now.
Yeah, that's on the Black Sea.
Okay.
They've wanted that for a long time. They've got it. They're not getting it back. Russia will just bleed Ukraine out. So I hate that for Ukraine, but that's the reality on the ground. I think that Zelensky should, try to keep as much of his territory intact as he can. And I think Russia's going to say Ukraine has to remain neutral. If they go over to Europe, we'll invade them again. I mean, if they go over to NATO.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see what happens there. You're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Next story, Fred.
Well, we're coming up to a break here, but I think most people have heard the big news this morning, came in last night, I guess, about Joe Biden, our former president, has been diagnosed with an aggressive case of prostate cancer. Prostate cancer is very common amongst men, but in this case, it's very aggressive, and it has metastasized beyond the prostate into his bones. And so it's going to require some pretty heavy-duty treatment. They do believe that former President Biden has a type of testosterone that will react well with some chemical treatment. But the question is, there's some question this morning, okay, we're just getting this news on the weekend of this aggressive case of prostate cancer, the former president. There is some speculation that it was known some time ago, but that Biden has kept this under wraps for some reason. Again, there's no way of knowing that at this point.
For some reason.
For some reason.
Well, what could that possibly be? Now, look, okay. I'm not making light of the fact that former President Biden has this aggressive form of cancer. This is very dangerous. It's metastasized in the bones. This is quite normal.
At his age?
At his age, it's usually a death sentence.
Yes.
Okay. That I don't want to see that on anyone.
No.
Okay. But my understanding, not being a doctor, but having been reading about this over the weekend, is that by the time this form of cancer reaches this stage, it usually takes 6 or 7 years. He gets some of the best medical care as president of the United States.
Yes.
In the world. There's, in my opinion, there's no way this was missed.
Yes.
That they did hide it because they want he and other. I'm sorry. So we got some sound on this.
Well, we're coming up to
take a break.
Yeah.
Let's take our break and we'll come back and continue this conversation. We're talking about there's so many big stories that happened since last week, over the weekend. We're talking about President Joe Biden, former President Joe Biden has
form of aggressive prostate cancer.
Yes, he has prostate cancer, and it's advanced and metastasized in the bones, and everybody's wondering, well, how in the world does that happen? Because this is a very treatable form of cancer.
Right.
And people who have annual checkups with their doctor, they would discover this a long time ago.
Yes.
Because your numbers would be, high enough to say, hey, what's going on here? All right, we'll be back momentarily. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
Mrs. Charles Hesse of Tripoli, Iowa, tells the following story. During World War I, my uncle was stationed as a ground mechanic at Old Chanute Field, Illinois. One day, his sergeant assigned him and 2 others to sweep out the hangar. While they were hard at work, a young lieutenant came in, sized up the situation, asked them to push one small plane out, to move the others back away from the doors, and to clear out themselves. Climbing into the small plane, the lieutenant took off, circled the field, and a few minutes later came back, thundering through the hangar and out again. Upon landing, his comment was, "Sure beats sweeping." The lieutenant's name? James Doolittle. All of us have heard about James Jimmy Doolittle. He was a man of vision, and being a man of vision brought him pain and persecution. People of great vision who are willing to express themselves often are met with bitter opposition. There was another man of vision who expressed himself. He said that men, all men, are extremely important to the one who made man. He also said that when we live selfishly, we shortchange ourselves. And he said that if we are not living like our Creator would have us live, we should change. They took this man among men, and executed him like a criminal. They hung him on a wooden cross between 2 other crosses, till his life was sapped out of him. We must not, any of us, dare to be persons of vision unless we're prepared to pay the sometimes high price of being such. We must not dare to look carefully and examiningly into the future unless we believe in the goodness and kindness of the Creator and His steadfastness in His love. James Doolittle, the Army air hero, was a prophet. If that name seems too religious for you, then use the word visionary. Same thing. And being a prophet drains the sap out of little people, or people too weak to face their adversaries. That's how you can tell a true prophet from a false one. The false one does not have the strength to meet the test, and the true do. We don't have many prophets today, or do we? Maybe we just don't recognize them as such. Maybe we're just calling them by other names. scientist, teacher, housewife, businessman, minister, or 1,000 others. You know, they laughed at Doolittle, but later they praised him. They spat on the Nazarene. They also crucified him, but later they worshipped him. Both Doolittle and Christ had something on their side. They believed in themselves and in something higher than themselves. That was their consolation. Don't dare to be a person of vision unless you're willing to let that be your consolation also. Sometimes it's the only consolation you will have.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
The Lord looks down from heaven on all mankind to see if there are any who understand God, any who seek God. Psalm 14, verse 2.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Ed, and Fred. We were talking about former President Joe Biden announced, or at least his spokesperson announced yesterday, that he has prostate cancer and that is metastasized into the bones. So he's evidently had it a long time, a while. It's very aggressive. Well, I say a long time. I don't know how long. I'm not privy to his private, personal medical records, except for what he's announced. But just by putting two and two together, you're going like there are a lot of questions about how long he's had this.
Yeah.
Now you were saying you were going to play something, a clip.
Yeah, Dr. Mark Siegel is one of the medical experts that you see on Fox News a lot. He says he's surprised by Biden's doctors that didn't pick up the cancer earlier, although he says prostate cancer is sometimes easy to miss. Cut number 2.
Really, really surprising that it's this advanced at the time of diagnosis. Now, you can miss prostate cancer, but most of the time regular screening picks it up. A sitting president, I would expect to have advanced screening. Should not be subject to debate what kind of screening. You do a PSA for sure every year on a
Would a
president.
PSA test have picked that up?
Not all the time, but there's other tests that we do that are several different kinds of tests you can do in addition to the PSA. But the PSA would pick it up the majority of the time. If he's diagnosed by somebody feeling a nodule, that's not these days the way we do it most of the time. Also, most of the time prostate cancer is diagnosed without symptoms. It has to get really pretty far advanced usually before you could have urinary symptoms leading towards urinary retention.
Now, you had this, Fred.
Yeah, and we have a policy here at American Family Association. People have what's called a healthy you. So you go every year to your doctor.
It's an annual checkup.
They do blood tests and that sort of thing. And with guys.
What we used to call a physical.
Yeah. And with guys, they do a physical exam of the prostate.
Yeah.
And they check it out, and the doctor can feel nodules on it.
Right.
That's a signal you may have a problem.
Right.
And you combine that if your PSA score is climbing.
That's a blood work score. I mean,
yes.
It's associated with your blood work.
Yes.
Yeah.
If that is climbing, then your doctor will likely say, hey, go to see your urologist, and they may decide to do a biopsy and just to see if there's cancer cells in there. That's why Dr. Siegel is saying you put all of those things together and you can discover the cancer very early, and it's very easy to treat. Some guys will elect, some urologists may say, okay, let's take it out.
Right.
Then you don't have to worry about this anymore. Others, treatments, I had a treatment called a proton treatment, which was mine was non-aggressive, but proton treatment is a fairly new treatment. It uses protons from a nucleus instead of the electrons, and they're able to pinpoint the cancer. And mine was diagnosed 10 years ago this month, had treatment, and I still have a PSA test every year to check, make sure everything's still okay.
Ray Pritchard, same thing.
Yeah.
Well, my dad used to say, my dad lived to 93, and he used to say that if a man lives long enough, he's going to have to deal with this issue. Just because most of us now, at least in the developed world, live a lot longer than we used to. And my grandfather, my dad's dad, died of heart issues. He had open heart surgery in the 60s, nowhere near what they're able to do now. And he died, relatively young in his 60s of that. But if you're living to 85, 90, 95, this just becomes part of the physical breakdown. That I should be cautious. Before the break, I was implying that President Biden and his administration probably knew this. I don't know if that's the case. I'm just going by the fact that his clear cognitive issues seemed plain to everyone, but everyone in the administration seemed to play dumb about it. We didn't know anything about it. And so now when I hear this, my first thought is, well, maybe they did know and they didn't want to say anything while he was in office because chances are people aren't going to vote for him.
Yeah.
So I'm suspicious, but I can't make an accusation.
I just know this too. Cancer's everywhere.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because I'm 62 now and I know more people. You live long enough, you know more people that get sick and die. Things happen, but it just seems like to me it's like, is that the perception you guys have, or?
Yeah, I don't know whether it's you never know if it's just a product of better screening.
Yeah, that's true.
But to your point, the older you get, the more you hear of people dying of old age diseases.
Right.
As we normally don't think of young people. Some kids and young people do get various forms of cancer, but that's not usually what cuts short a life.
Yeah.
But when you get up into our age, hearts begin to break down, cells begin to break down, all those kinds of diseases that tend to kill you in old age. You're more likely to get dementia, those kind of things.
That's encouraging.
Yes.
That's a good way to start your Monday morning, right there, ladies and gentlemen. Brother Ed, just
but you can try to eat the right things and all that.
Try.
You get try. Boy, now you're just going complete pessimist here.
I had vegetable soup last night and ate a side of broccoli too.
You stay active. I mean, you go.
Yeah.
You hit the golf ball.
Yeah.
You're carrying. So you're walking.
Yeah. It's
you're
not
out
as
in the
active
yard
as if you pull your cart behind you, but yeah, it's at least some.
Yeah.
Walking around,
there you
physical
go.
activity.
I'm trying to encourage you here a little bit.
But,
you're going to live for years.
So this morning. So I had vegetable soup last night, and this morning I just canceled it out with some sausage.
Yes.
So I don't know. What do you? You just live life. You can't live life with your taste buds bland, though, can you?
No.
That's not quality.
Is that a life worth living?
Yeah.
Is life worth living?
I think an Italian would know that better than anybody.
Once
right?
in a while, every once in a while, because I usually my wife makes me some eggs for breakfast,
which were terrible for you in the 70s.
Yes,
they're good for you now.
Yeah. My poor dad. I can remember my poor dad eating eggs made out of what's called egg beaters.
Oh no!
Oh no!
You remember these?
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
fake
little
eggs. Fake eggs.
Milk carton looking thing.
Yeah.
And you'd pour it into, and everything was removed from it.
Yeah.
And my poor dad, because he was told. I've told the story here on the air about how I didn't have real butter until a few years ago, because
margarine.
It was margarine growing up. That's all. And when I tasted margarine growing up, I thought, I don't want to eat this. I had dry toast. If I had toast, it was dry up until 3 years ago. And my wife said, "Here, you want the rest of my buttered toast?" And I took a bite and I thought, what is this? This is amazing.
Where's this been all my life? It's been in the fridge.
So my poor dad, he had egg beaters half his life.
Don't you remember?
Oh, yeah.
In the 70s, I think eggs were on the cover of Time magazine as deadly cholesterol.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Of course, it didn't stop Americans, but now and then, like 3 years ago, I remember going to the doctor. And my doctor, for an annual physical, like Fred talked about, and the doctor goes, yeah, because I got high cholesterol.
Yeah.
Not crazy high, but high enough.
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, I'd watch your maybe your intake. He said for breakfast I would have a couple eggs and some fruit, maybe. And I'm going like, I thought eggs were bad.
Yeah.
No, eggs are good for you. They're a protein.
Yes.
Well, let me just say this one thing. Once a week, usually once a week, my wife will make some bacon.
Yeah.
And so I have it with my eggs, and to me that's bacon day, and that's what I call it. It's bacon day. And now I eat my breakfast here at work because if I eat it at 6 or 6:30, by the time I get on the show,
You're
my
hungry.
stomach's growling
Right,
and
right,
it's loud.
Right.
So I cut that a little bit by. And if someone gets in between me and the microwave when I'm going to heat up my eggs with bacon on bacon day,
Yeah.
you will
It's
ruin
not
the
pretty.
day. Not pretty.
Well, the you can just, they're going to learn in 20 years.
Yeah.
From now they're going to make a major discovery.
That pizza's good for you?
Yes, that's it. Our great minds think alike. Great stomachs think alike. They're going to make a discovery that pizza is actually an antioxidant.
Antioxidant. The antioxidant
Major
qualities.
discovery today. Scientists from Yale University have stated that
Stunning antioxidant
that
qualities.
pizza is an antioxidant.
It's amazing what has happened in the last 10 years. And you guys have addressed some of this. What was bad, the doctors are now saying that's really good.
Yeah.
Like eggs.
Yes.
And not just egg whites.
Right.
We're talking
The
the whole egg.
Yep.
And also, we were told for years, skim milk, 2% milk. No, now they're saying whole milk.
Really?
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
know. I didn't see that news flash.
didn't
Oh
either.
no, there's whole milk.
I
now.
drank the blue top
Yeah.
for late years.
You go now
The
to
blue top.
Are you telling me the red top was the way I should have gone?
the whole milk.
you know what I'm talking
the whole
about?
milk is
Yeah,
good
I
for
do.
you.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah, I didn't want to do the blue top, but I did it for my own health.
Yeah.
But
That's another thing. Because of my dad and his cholesterol. I have low cholesterol from my mom's side. My dad had high cholesterol. She would get skim milk. That really.
oh, that's water.
Water.
That's,
Oh,
that's
my
water.
goodness.
Don't even give me cereal.
If we were out
gonna
of
do
the
that.
regular milk for the
No.
kids, I'd get some of my dad's, put it in my cereal,
No.
and it looked gray.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not American.
No, it's
That's the way I look at it.
all right.
All right.
so
So anyway, so
channel.
more dietary talk tomorrow.
dietary talk.
Well,
Dietary dialogue.
tariff talk went away, so we got to have something new to.
At least our dietary dialogue segment
Yes,
isn't going to affect the stock market.
true. Duly noted. You're listening to Today's Issues on American Family Radio. That's the name of this show. Tim, Ed, and Fred. Next story, Fred.
Well, some of my favorite movies through the years have involved prison breakouts.
Name one or two.
Alcatraz, Clint,
Yeah.
Oh, brother, where art thou?
Clint Eastwood, Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, I love that movie. Yeah.
They still play that over and over and over again. And Shawshank Redemption in particular is, over time, this guy, prison inmate, who's in there, he shouldn't be, he's innocent,
Right.
but he digs through a wall
Yeah.
and then he has to gets down into a pipe and breaks into a pipe
Yeah.
and crawls out through this pipe and he's
Yeah.
free and he
Beats up with Morgan Freeman.
meets
He
up
had
with
he had a poster on the wall of his cell
yeah,
that covered the hole.
yes,
Remember?
of a girl, yeah.
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 Anyway, so it was, and both of these, we think the Alcatraz, they still debate today whether those three guys, because that was based on a true.
Yes.
You mean the
This guy-
Clint Eastwood movie was
Yeah.
based on a true story?
Yeah, we think they got away, but a lot of people say they didn't.
They
'cause
were drowned,
they
shark
froze.
infested waters.
Anyways, by the way, Trump wants to reopen Alcatraz and put bad guys there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's planning to do that. Anyway, all of that to lead up to the story that broke on Friday. This is down in New Orleans. And we hear that 10 guys, really bad guys, have broken out of a county jail. Then they start having news conferences on this on Friday afternoon. And we find that and you can go, folks, right now to afn.net, and there's an image dealing with this story, and you will see these guys managed to, I think they got behind a toilet and opened up a wall and got out that way. And there's pictures, you may have seen it this weekend, there's pictures of these 10 guys fleeing out through the loading dock at this jail in New Orleans, got over the fence, and they're gone. Now they've recaptured 3. So as of the moment, there are seven guys. They're bad guys, and they're still on the loose. And everybody's wondering, they're looking at this. 10 guys get out. How did this happen? There's a lot of stuff going on. Former Assistant FBI Director Chris Swecker was on Fox this morning talking about this. Let's have a listen to what he has to say. Cut 4.
New Orleans has never been any stranger to corruption, public corruption. Yeah, I think the FBI has to step in, and the State Department of Justice. There has to be an outside investigation. They can't be allowed to investigate themselves. I mean, inherently, these types of escapes, this many people has to have some sort of inside help, if not at least gross negligence. So they can't investigate themselves. I think it would be a joint investigation with the AG's office and the FBI looking for corruption. They hire locally. So the people that work in these jails have relatives out in the community. They're subject to extortion, intimidation, bribery. That happens from time to time. But this is in the extreme.
Right. Now, here's what we know because the prison officials have told us. These guys managed to get out around 1 o'clock in the morning on Friday. The prison officials said we didn't know about it until about 7 hours later.
When they have the morning check.
Head
check.
So they had a 7-hour way to get away. 7 hours.
Head start, basically.
Head start on this. The prison officials are now, they've indicated they believe that these prisoners had help from the inside in making their escape. The Attorney General of Louisiana, not surprised. She's very upset about this, wants a full investigation. How could this happen? How could they get out, get on the loading dock, and then disappear? They do believe that at least some of these guys now have left not only New Orleans, but probably Louisiana. The FBI this morning upped the reward for people call in. It was $5,000 over the weekend. It's now up to $10,000. And like I say, some of these guys are up on murder charges. They were in this jail, which to me kind of looks like the pictures that I've seen is kind of mid-security, not high security. But a lot of folks are asking a lot of questions.
Well, it's essentially like a county jail.
Yeah.
Right, where they're being
It's
held.
Orleans Parish. I'm sorry. It's Orleans Parish. It is a county jail. And I'm watching I'm watching a video of them going. The prisoners escaping. They're jumping off a dock.
Loading dock, yeah.
They're like the loading dock. I guess it brings food and supplies to the prison itself.
But if they're on
a video cam though.
Yeah.
I'm going like you said, 7 hours.
Yeah, before they were discovered gone.
how do you not have somebody in some
Because
kind
they're
of,
playing on their cell phones.
That's probably it. I was going to say, how do you not have someone watching your security cameras?
They're playing on their cell
And
phones. I can almost guarantee you. Huh?
Yeah.
That's the world we live in today.
Well, and the suspects who were being held in jail over the hole that they dug out, they had written with an arrow pointing at the hole. It said "too easy," LOL, but they spelled "two" TO.
Right.
And I just
Right.
thought, well,
Right.
that's a
Yeah.
whole discussion in and of itself.
Yes, and they are. Here is the. They are. A lot of them have tattoo. Well, not a lot of them have tattoos on their. One of them has a tattoo on it. He's going to be found pretty quick if he goes to the Walmart. He's got
What
like
did they
6
catch? One of them down in the French Quarter.
Also,
or something.
3 or 4 of them are wearing the orange jumpsuits. So, the prisoners wear. I don't know. These guys are dangerous, though. I mean, just to be running in. And if you have a dangerous criminal running free, and they can go in, they could carjack, they could go in houses,
Right.
of unsuspecting people. But anyway, it's but it just makes the. Was this a city or county?
I think it's like a county. I was talking to Abe Hamilton.
He's from New Orleans.
Yeah, and he said it's just like a county jail.
Okay, because it was the sheriff's office who who's talking. I showed you the sheriff's office's publicity lady, didn't I?
Yeah. Her
She-
glasses look like
she's
was
doing a-
going to Mardi Gras.
I don't know,
coming
was it
back.
Friday or Saturday? She's doing a press conference with some of the other, I guess, sheriff's department officials about the jailbreak and how it happened and
what they're doing.
what they're doing about it. And this lady looked to be like she's like maybe 45, 50 or something like that, and she's the spokesperson.
Right.
And she's doing this press conference, and she's wearing these Mardi Gras glasses.
That's what they look like.
That's what I call
Big
them.
green
like
glasses.
clown glasses. Like, huh? They're green, sort of. I mean, they're the kind of you see at a party.
Yes.
You know, a birthday party or something. And she's you can't listen to what she's saying because she's good. It's very distracting. I don't know who let her go out with clown glasses on
otherwise
to do a press
she looked-
conference about a serious issue.
Otherwise, she was dressed professionally.
Yeah.
She had her uniform on and that kind of thing.
She'd done well to put on some
If
put on some slouchy clothes and say I was headed out to my grandchild's party and I got called in.
Yeah.
But don't put on you sharp dressed sheriff deputy's outfit, and then put on clown glasses.
Because when I say professionally, you want to make the other people in the county and the state feel confidence.
Yes.
You don't want to wear clown
No.
glasses.
And when you look at that, you're just laughing. And you're going, no wonder they escaped. Look at this.
Yeah.
This,
So if she obviously doesn't have any friends in the department, because a friend would have said, "Girl, you cannot go out there with those glasses. Wear your other glasses. Put those on."
all you got to do is type in New Orleans. Let's see, New Orleans sheriff spokesperson, and I bet you that video of her comes up. Bless her, she's probably good at what she does for all I know, but that was a wrong choice of attire there to do a press conference of that nature. Fred, you don't have any comment here? You just gonna let us dig our own holes?
There she is, right there.
You see her?
Yeah.
Well, now do a video there. Do a video.
Well, the
is that the video?
that's a picture.
Yeah, that video's on there.
It's
okay.
Oh
Look
my
at
goodness.
Her. Yeah, does that not? She looks like she's getting ready. Am I right?
Yeah, I don't know what those are.
To go out to Friday night with the girls.
Yeah. Now, listen, I am no fashion maven, okay, but she looks like maybe the glasses that the Riddler would wear in an episode of the old Batman show.
It's hilarious.
So you want people
it's
to feel
not a
confidence.
hilarious moment,
No.
but it's hilarious to see her.
You want people to feel confidence,
and that doesn't exude confidence in me.
You're already dressed professionally
Yes.
for your job.
Yeah,
the glasses. Listen, the only
and she has a high pitched voice. Too,
what I'm saying is you wouldn't expect her to go out with you. Those are the things you can put on your head that have the little antennas with the little balls on top. And you just go, why are you wearing those? I can't hear you over your antenna.
I know. How many? Sadly, New Orleans is one of the most dangerous cities in America now.
It is.
Yeah. New Orleans, St. Louis, per capita. I'm talking about Memphis, Jackson, Mississippi,
Atlanta, probably
Chicago. I mean, those are some very dangerous places in the interior.
All run by Democrats.
Yeah, all run by Democrats. You got that right. All right, next story, Fred.
Well, I know you guys have been wondering what the former FBI director James Comey has been up to lately. Well,
he's walking the beach, right?
He took a walk on the beach the other day, and he comes across some shells, some seashells. And
This happens to me all the time.
He's just amazed by this because the seashells depict some numbers, 86, 47, 80, and he's so excited. He puts it out on social media. Look what 86 for. Isn't this so cool? Well, some people didn't find that too cool because 86 in kind of street language sounds is
get rid of
47. Who is the 47th president of the United States?
Donald Trump.
who happened to fire me.
Yes.
So he is under investigation. Apparently, on Friday or Saturday, he had a visit from the Secret Service. They want to know. Now, he says, I think initially he said, I didn't think anything of it, 8647.
I didn't know what it meant.
No.
Then why did you put it on why did you put a picture up if you didn't know what it meant?
Because, Tim,
didn't.
listen, let me just explain this
Explain
to you.
it to you.
Okay.
I'm a third grader.
I'm going to explain
Break
it
it
to
down.
you. Okay. When my wife and I go to the beach,
Yeah.
we see these kinds of things all the time.
Right.
Crabs are always trying to get secret messages to me. Okay? And I
Yeah,
will
are
walk
they?
and I'll see these words
Right.
and these numbers on the beach,
Yeah.
and
They're a mystery to you.
they are a mystery.
And so you want to put them out on social media so that the world can help you
Help me
understand.
solve this.
This is James Comey, former FBI director who Trump did fire,
Mm-hmm.
is posting we're laughing about it, but this is a guy who's posting a picture on his social media page that in essence are numbers that say take out the president.
Yeah, because there's no election coming up. I mean, this
So politically,
if he had posted this in advance of the 2024 election,
right.
he could explain
Yeah.
and say, I was saying don't let this guy get back in office. But he's elected, he's in office. How are you going to remove him?
what did he say in response to this?
I think he said maybe impeachment. Nobody's buying it.
He
which
said,
is why I've got,
here's the direct quote, I didn't realize some folks associate those numbers with violence.
Nobody.
End quote.
No.
It never occurred to me.
Then why did he do it? If that didn't occur to him, he wouldn't put a picture out on social media. He knew exactly what it meant.
you're not giving the crabs enough credit, Tim. Never trust a crab on a beach.
We'll be back in a moment, people.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
How do you choose to stay informed? Sure, you can find all kinds of sources for information and commentary, but when you want them from a Christian perspective, turn to The Stand. Whether you choose to read the online blog or get the print version delivered to your mailbox, you can rest assured you'll receive factual news and biblically sound commentary. Find out more today at afa.net/The Stand.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. 10 inmates escaped from a Louisiana jail on Friday, and authorities are investigating how it was able to happen, with the suspicion that they had assistance. 3 of the escapees have since been captured. Brooke Taylor has more.
These inmates, they are considered dangerous, have serious charges, murder or attempted murder. This is day 4, though, since those inmates ran out of jail. All of this caught on surveillance footage. The sheriff's office says they scaled a wall using blankets, then ran across the interstate. Pictures show the hole they escaped through behind a toilet with taunting messages like, quote, "too easy, LOL," written above it. The sheriff blames the escape on defective locks and says it's almost impossible to get out without help.
Members of the House Budget Committee have approved a budget bill aimed at advancing President Trump's agenda, which include his plan to extend tax cuts first passed in 2017. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt calling for Republicans to support the bill.
If Democrats get their way and the Trump tax cuts are not extended, Americans will face the largest tax hike in history to the tune of $4 trillion. Republicans must not side with Democrats in helping them raise taxes.
Vice President J.D. Vance speaking to reporters aboard Air Force Two today, where he discussed President Trump's talks with his Russian and Ukrainian counterparts. The vice president insists the U.S. wants to bring an end to the conflict, but one area of concern remains whether Russian President Vladimir Putin is committed to pursuing peace at all.
He has made some concessions. He has taken some serious steps in these conversations, but we feel like, we're at a point where we're hitting an impasse, and that's why the president is talking to him on the phone. I think, honestly, that President Putin, he doesn't quite know how to get out of the war.
Former President Joe Biden is diagnosed with aggressive prostate cancer that has spread to his bones. Rich Edson in Washington with more on how political figures are reacting to the diagnosis.
The former president wrote, quote, "Cancer touches us all. Like so many of you, Jill and I have learned that we are strongest in the broken places. Thank you for lifting us up with love and support." President Trump posted, quote, "Melania and I are saddened to hear about Joe Biden's recent medical diagnosis. We extend our warmest and best wishes to Jill and family. We wish Joe a fast and successful recovery." Former Vice President Kamala Harris says that she and her husband are hoping for a speedy recovery, though there are questions whether doctors missed the early stages of Biden's cancer.
A radio host and public policy analyst thinks a poll of Democrats illustrates just how the Democrats have been a party in disarray since the 2024 election. Chad Groening has more.
6 months after their resounding defeat by Donald Trump, Democrats are deeply pessimistic about the future of their party. A new poll conducted earlier this month by the Associated Press NORC Center for Public Affairs Research found that only about one-third of Democrats are very optimistic or even somewhat optimistic about their party's future. That's down sharply from July 2024, when about 6 in 10 Democrats said they had a positive outlook. Jenna Ellis hosts Jenna Ellis in the Morning on American Family Radio.
Democrats have been in disarray for a while, and I think that's been the main talking point from the GOP and the Trump administration. But I think it's accurate because they don't have a cohesive message, they don't have a leader, and they frankly don't have any solutions for the American people.
And Ellis says the Democrats are really having internal struggles.
You have kind of the older Kennedy version of the Democrats that are now maybe more centric. But you still have a few kind of common sense Democrats. And then you have the other extreme of these incredibly woke socialist, cultural Marxists, the people like Kamala Harris. And so I think the Democrats are really struggling for that reason. And when you're struggling internally as a party, then you don't have a message that you're selling to the American people.
The poll finds that about half of Republicans, 55%, are very or somewhat optimistic about their party's future, up from 47% last summer. I'm Chad Groening.
Dozens of people have died and more injured after tornadoes tore through parts of the central U.S. Dramatic footage from several states, including Missouri and Colorado, showed a trail of destruction through towns in the path of the tornadoes. Residents will have to pick through the remains of the destroyed homes as officials warned the death toll could rise. For American Family News, I'm Rusty P.
If we lose this cultural war, we're going to have a hedonistic, humanistic society.
Discover the story of the culture warrior Don Wildman and how he went head-to-head with Hollywood, Playboy, the homosexual agenda, and the Disney empire. The movement Don started paved the way for Christians to boldly stand for truth and righteousness in a hostile culture. Watch Culture Warrior today for free. Visit culturewarrior.movie.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thank you for listening to AFR. I'm Tim Wildman with Ed Battagliano and now Steve Paisley-Jordahl. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, everybody.
Hey, so the top three stories we covered in the first hour were the tornadoes that ravaged the middle part of the country, namely Kentucky and
Kansas.
I
will be talking
Missouri.
Yeah, I'll be talking to Steve Tiber a little bit later today to get a story off on American Family News about what they're doing there.
President of the United States Donald Trump has been on the phone this morning with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
And I haven't yet heard anything official yet from the White House about how that went. But
trying to work out a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. And then the third big story, Steve, was the announcement that former President Joe Biden has what kind of cancer? Prostate
cancer that is metastasized to his bones. The question being, how long did they know? How long does it take for something like that to happen? And is it likely that they knew about it when they were still trying to run in for president in this last election?
Yeah.
Well, that's the question, and this is probably something We won't know for a while until somebody spills the beans. If it was covered up, it could be. And I had to admit in the last segment, that it is sometimes possible that is missed.
In fact, that's what I don't know what you guys played. I know that we had some cuts from doctors.
Mark Siegel, I think.
Mark Siegel was one, and there was another one, Dr. Randall Lee of Fox Chase Cancer Center. Both of them said the same thing, that it's easy to miss.
Really?
Well, by the time it gets as advanced as they're having, well, we could actually, if you want to.
I've always heard it's easy to detect, not hard to detect.
Well, even Mark Siegel said in the vast majority of cases they do discover it early, but it can be missed. I guess
it can be missed, but by the time it gets to the place where it's metastasized to the bones, and I guess President Biden was complaining of some urinary issues. By that time, you rarely miss it. Now, we had another doctor. We wouldn't necessarily play the clip, but Dr. Randall Lee of Fox Chase Cancer Center said that it is a dire diagnosis, but Joe Biden has a fair chance of survival, not cure, not like it's going to go away, but he may live years. You could live years more with the advance in technology. However, I came across, Dilbert, the
comic strip
Dilbert. Scott Adams is the guy that is who drew that. He's a conservative commentator too now and everything. He has come out with a video. I didn't bring the audio in, but he came out today on social media, says he has the same cancer that has metastasized also to his bones, and he says the doctors tell him he's going to be gone sometime this summer.
He's only 67 years old.
Which used
Scott
to be
Adams.
really old, but now is young.
Yeah. Well, I turned 67 this August.
Yeah.
And I consider that young.
I do too. Yeah. So, but I mean, that's a dire thing, and I feel.
But you hear about it all the time, and people get treated, and so when caught early, as they say, it's a highly treatable form of cancer. Probably one of the highest.
They got some very remarkable treatments. I don't know if Fred talked about some of the treatments that they had. But like most cancers, it depends on when you catch it. But by the time it's metastasized to the bone, I think, and in stage 4, which I guess is the last stage.
That's what's remarkable, that people are scratching your heads going, how could somebody with access to the best medical care in the world go undiagnosed with this for so long, to the point where it's diagnosed? Because I was reading last night a gentleman who's a cancer doctor. Of course, you get, even among doctors, you get various opinions sometimes, so they're not unanimous. But this guy was saying, basically he was saying it like we're thinking. He's going, he said this would take 5 to 7 years to progress to the point where it metastasizes in the bones.
Right.
There are hints. I want to I place
hints of what?
Of that he might have known about it longer than he's let on. Let's just this is Joe Biden in 2022. He was doing an environmental press conference in Delaware, his home state. Some issue about some pollution that was put into rivers and everything when he's grown up. But listen, what I'm going to play. The reason I'm playing it will be fairly evident here. Cut 3.
And because it was a 4-lane highway that was accessible, my mother drove us, and rather than us be able to walk. And guess what? The first frost, you know what was happening? You had to put on your windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so many other people I grew up have cancer, and why for the longest time, Delaware had the highest cancer rate in the nation.
And we might have played that at the time and said, oh, listen, Joe Biden has no idea what he's saying. He's so far gone, he thinks he has cancer. He might have had cancer.
Yes. That's kind of, here's the thing. Now, 2022, he was still fairly lucid. I mean, you could tell he was having difficulty. He really, the last 2 years of his term, he really dropped off considerably. So back in 2022, I'm thinking he wasn't just misspeaking. He wasn't, thinking he had it, but he didn't because he's confused. It sounded like he was saying he and others have cancer because of environmental
It's
factors.
exactly what he's saying.
Yes.
And again, whether or not see,
that's what I'm saying. It sounds like that's what he means to say. Is that he has cancer?
Well, didn't he have cancer before though, like skin cancer or something? 2, 3, 4 years ago or something like that.
I don't know. I'm checking.
There is there was a Biden aide who's come out and said that almost his full 4 years in office, that he was basically incapable of making hard decisions, and they referred to it as a rest home.
Okay.
Okay,
He did have skin cancer
2 years ago.
In 2023. I'm looking at an article from July 25th, 2023 on statnews.com. Basal cell carcinoma.
So he could have been talking about that.
That's true. He could have.
Could have been.
Anyway, we're probably not going to find out unless if there was a cover up in the Biden administration, we'll probably hear about it from some whistleblower.
And you got HIPAA laws to deal with too.
You got HIPAA laws, so we may never know. He was clearly not supposed to be in office. The Democrats should have run somebody else.
Well, they
shouldn't have run for re-election.
I think we can all quit scratching our heads, if that's what you're doing, and wonder why did those closest to Joe Biden, including his own wife, why did they try to hide the fact that he was going downhill fast mentally and was incapable of being president of the United States, other than just a warm body in a suit sitting in an office? Is that it is as it appears to be, and it's simple. Those people around Joe Biden in the White House wanted him to remain president because they liked the lifestyle, they liked the attention, they liked the power, and so if it meant propping him up like Weekend at Bernie's, so they could remain in power and beat Bad Man Orange, or Bad Orange Man, or whatever they call President Trump. I mean,
Orange Man Bad.
Orange Man Bad. See, I'd get all three versions there. Then they were going to pretend like he was fine and get their media friends to do the same thing. They didn't count on that one. They were hoping he would make it through one debate. If he could make it through one debate, they weren't going to put him out there a second time.
Right.
Okay. And all they do is say, we're not going to debate a fascist. Okay. That we're just not going to. We did it once. We're not going to do it again. That's all they would have said.
Right.
And if he were going to be able to run again, so it would have been.
Well,
that's what they did.
Assume he knew. Assume he knew that and they made it through the debate, and they thought he'll win. He'll declare he has cancer. He'll resign.
Yes.
We have a President Kamala Harris who gets almost 3 full.
That's what they were. That's what they were going to hope for till he had the meltdown on the debate.
Yeah.
Where he couldn't recover from that. Yeah. So, but had he just made it through that debate, sort of, he's slipping, but he's not terrible, and that he might have been able to win. I don't know.
I think the assassination attempt changed a lot of stuff. It changed America's perception of the man. Now you've got a martyr.
Of what
potential
man?
Martyr of Trump.
Okay, I was talking about Biden.
No. Biden had nothing to do with the assassination attempt. What I'm saying is that when he dodged the bullet in Pennsylvania, a lot of people got a whole lot more sympathetic toward the man, especially when he stood up and shook his fist at the thing. And
he dodged a bullet?
He dodged a bullet.
How did he dodge
He
it?
literally dodged a bullet.
Wow.
I'm sorry, was that inappropriate?
No,
I'm not
that's
really.
not
you're making him sound like Superman.
I'm laughing at Tim, who's focused on the dodge the bullet expression.
I'm not even using that as a metaphor. I'm literally saying he dodged a bullet.
Did he though, Steve? Did he dodge a bullet?
I don't know.
I don't say this. I don't say this every day because I know some Christians who do, and you roll your eyes because every day's a miracle. You know what I'm talking? You know the kind of people I'm talking about?
That's a great name for a book. Go ahead.
Okay.
I rolled my eyes.
So no.
It's a miracle.
Well, it'd be a great day for huh?
Today's a miracle.
I bet you'd sell a bunch.
You would. Absolutely, you would.
Sell a bunch. Hey, we need to co-write that.
I can get the third,
right after all the other books.
Steve can add the photography.
Photography.
Yeah.
I could probably get some good televangelist recommendations. Yeah. Be the third co-author.
Well, so what were you going to say? I'm sorry. Every day you might roll your eyes because Christians.
Well, you know, we all know our brothers and sisters who every day's they turn left at a stop sign instead of right, and God was leading them to Burger King instead of McDonald's. You know these Christians?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
I'm not saying they're not believers. They're just little wackadoodle on stuff, and everything's God told them. Yeah. And everything's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I'm saying this in a serious way.
Yes.
You said dodge the bullet. I know what you meant. I was kidding with you there.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how else you explain what Donald Trump escaped that day, other than God Almighty,
right,
intervening, because he turned his head. I'm talking about in Pennsylvania when the guy tried to shoot him.
Yeah.
He turned his head. Otherwise, his head is blown off his body. Excuse me being so graphic here.
It would have been,
and it would have been an image that none of us would have ever recovered from.
Right. And it would have torn the country apart because conservatives would have blamed liberals.
That's right.
It would have been a free for all.
Yeah, that's right. So that was and I'm being serious here. That I just don't know how you deny, to your point, Steve, earlier, that God saved Donald Trump's life.
He said as much. He believes it.
And his response to it, getting back up when they wanted him to stay down and raising his fist and saying, fight, fight, fight. That response combined with the closeness, fractions of inches, I think turned the narrative.
We could get a psychologist in here to tell us what happened with the mass cultural shift, but you noticed immediately it was all of a sudden okay to say you're a Donald Trump fan. It was okay to say that. It really, that's when we started going against the woke stuff. Everything he was talking about, getting rid of DEI, which used to be racist, all of a sudden now it was plausible.
One of the main reasons Donald Trump won, though, in all seriousness, is Kamala Harris was awful. And you only had two choices.
Right.
You only had two choices. You had Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, and she was so bad.
And with Trump, he had a first term where the economy was doing well.
He had a record.
And now we were in 4 years of economic turmoil.
Inflation crazy.
Yeah, inflation going crazy. And so people were going, Kamala Harris, who's a terrible candidate.
I'm going to go Trump.
I'll also say this, and I mean this in a cultural way, okay? Trump's reaction to almost getting shot, I think, impacted the way black males and Hispanics, especially Hispanic males, viewed him, because those are both cultures that put an emphasis on masculinity.
Yeah.
And they saw this guy get up with blood streaming down his face saying, fight, fight, fight. And maybe I could be proven wrong, but I think that turned a higher percentage than would be typical in those two voting blocks to.
So you're saying white men are wimps?
No, I am saying there are far more soy boys in the white community.
I baited you right there. You don't even have to answer.
Yeah,
than the black and Hispanic community.
No, you're right.
Put a premium on masculinity.
You're right. So anyway, yeah. All right. So next story, Steve.
We got a plethora. Let me just give you a couple of choices. Do you
like the Three Amigos plethora?
Just about. Do you want to? I'll give you a choice. The next.
Could it be?
I have something I want to end. Give me a couple minutes at the very end. I have something we got to talk about. But do you want to talk about a fertility clinic in Palm Springs that was blown up? Do you want to talk about a Mexican ship going into a bridge?
Do the fertility clinic first.
All right. So in Palm Springs over the weekend, there was a fertility clinic that was a car bomb was parked in front of, and it exploded. The guy that was in the car died, And other than that, everybody else avoided injury or death. The guy's name, the victim's name, was a guy named Gary Bartkus. And if you look at Gary Bartkus's picture, he looks an awful lot like the guy that won American Idol a couple years ago, the country singer. But I digress.
Don't digress too much.
Okay.
Lose us.
So they found a manifesto of this guy. And this is some of the things that he'd written in his manifesto. And this is why you're not hearing it a whole lot. It's disappeared from the news. It's disappeared from the mainstream media because in his manifesto he wrote, I think there needs to be a war against pro-lifers. I'd choose Satan over your evil God. Clearly anti-life.
Well, he got his wish.
Well, yeah. He's not wishing it anymore.
Right.
So anyway, that happened, and the fact that you're not seeing it in the media anymore.
Well, and let me just say this: the left increasingly, it's becoming obvious now. It was obvious to us a long time ago, but this is starting to spread in terms of the views of people like Bill Maher and others in the traditional liberal camp, that the left is becoming unhinged and more prone to wanting to resort to violence to solve their political impotency, rather than trying to convince people to come their way on terms of.
You think they're more prone now than they were in the summer of 2020 in Minneapolis?
No, I'm saying it's becoming more clear to people that, we've talked about these polls.
Yeah.
55% of individuals on the left think that resorting to violence is a good way. Large percentages saying assassination is a good solution.
Something around that.
Which makes the story we covered about Comey in the first hour, 86-47,
that guy's
even more important.
Such a clown. All right. So over the weekend they had a boat parade in New York, and there was some problem. There was a boat from the Mexican Navy. It was an older boat. It was kind of a sail. One of those three-masted ships. Had a bunch of people on it, and it lost power in the middle of this parade in the Hudson River, and it backed into the Brooklyn Bridge. There's video you can see online of the masts, one at a time, being bowled over. Now
that was incredible to watch.
There were people up in the at the top of those masts.
Yeah.
Two
crow's nest.
Crow's nest.
Yeah.
They died. Two people died because they fell.
I think what this video has been all over the place. It was a Mexican naval ship that was in New York for some reason. We don't know exactly.
It just says a goodwill tour.
It's a parade ship. It would be like the USS Constitution.
Right. It wasn't a battleship or anything like that. It was just a naval ship that looked like it was like you described it.
1800s. The U.S. still has a commissioned ship from the 1700s.
So the mast, two of the mast, M-A-S-T, collapse as they hit the Brooklyn Bridge, and tragically people died. I mean, how many? 2 died and 18 injured or something like that.
And some seriously. Now it's good to know that our Democrat friends here are always compassionate. This is a statement from Chuck Schumer. We know that the Trump administration has been meddling in U.S. Coast Guard operations from staffing to command and comms, and I have the general sense of some Doge dysfunction in parts of the Coast Guard, to put it mildly. After being fully briefed about last night's Brooklyn Bridge accident, one thing is clear. There are many more questions to answer as to about how the accident occurred and whether it could have been prevented. It's Trump's fault.
These people are nuts.
Who says it's Trump's fault?
Schumer. Listen,
they're whacked.
They are clowns.
Yeah.
All right. Hey,
you said you had something to get to.
Okay, so there's this sports league. I think it's called the WNBA. It's about as it is about as excellent as a junior high basketball league.
Steve, be careful.
No. Have you seen these guys play basketball?
These girls?
Just most of them.
Oh man.
Be careful, Steve.
They literally can't. They're more air balls than made shots there. Anyway, there was a game between these two teams, the Indiana and
the Fever.
The Fever, and then there's two players. Angel Reese is one.
I know all about it if you want me to talk about it.
Well, let me just say that that there was a hard foul, and then Angel Reese, this one player, this is in Indiana. She was the opposite team. She went to shoot a free throw. She missed, and the fans cheered because she missed. Quote, the WNBA is investigating Indiana fans cheering after Angel Reese missed her free throw as an act of racism.
Well, the WNBA is woke. Okay, that's ridiculous. I saw that whole play. This was Caitlin Clark, everybody knows who she is by now, the most prolific scorer in the history of college basketball. She went to the Indiana Fever, a women's professional last year, and she was a lot of the veteran players and others are jealous of her because of her accomplishments. And she fouled Angel Reese right there. She kept her from making a layup by putting her hand, and it looked bad. Okay, but it wasn't
a hard foul.
Hard foul. So
Apparently.
anyway, but you don't want to play against Caitlin Clark right now. If you're 60, how old are you?
5.
Okay, 65? You don't want that. You don't want that.
Although I still might.
Yeah.
Be, I don't know about Caitlin Clark, but I bet I could score better than half of the people in that league.
Steve's on his own on this. You can take all the calls and emails.
Totally.
All right, I want to play this. Let's play this classic clip here.
But I think you would like your other presents too. I have put many beautiful piñatas in the storeroom, each of them filled with little surprises.
Many piñatas?
Oh, yes, many.
Would you say I have a plethora of piñatas?
A what?
A plethora.
Oh, yes. You have a plethora.
Jefe, what is a plethora?
Why, guapo?
Well, you told me I have a plethora. And I just would like to know if you know what a plethora is.
There you go. Classic scene from the movie Three Amigos.
Could it be El Guapo?
And it's just fitting that we have three.
Hey, Three Amigos right here.
Or
so
some would say three blind mice.
More than you'd like to admit,
Yes.
huh?
All right, all you ladies out there, Steve's ready for a little basketball action. He'll meet you outside here. Take a little 3-point shot.
I'm not sorry. I'm not saying women can't play basketball. I'm saying these women.
That's
can't
what
play
I
basketball.
heard.
We'll be back tomorrow. Take care. Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Wildman, president of American Family Association and American Family Radio. Hey, I wanted to make you aware of our trips to Israel and Greece in 2026. We're going in